what will probably be illegal in 25 years. I'm hoping it will be grocery shops sending produce to landfill. All produce can be used even if it's not suitable for human consumption. Slightly damaged, bruised and out-of-date stock can be sent to charity. Heavily damaged and expiring goods can be fed to livestock. Soiled and well-expired goods can be composted. There are a few countries which have started to put this practice into legislation, and I'm hoping in the next 25 years or so there will be a lot of countries following suit. I have a bad feeling that a lot of the more dangerous hobby parts might become unavailable. Cylinder lithium-ion cells are already getting harder to get, and DIY battery packs illegal to take on planes, despite potentially being safer than 100% AOK €5 Chinese power banks. I have a feeling that the aluminum-ion batteries that were recently detailed to have incredible performance, at least on paper, might be completely inaccessible to hobbyist hands. Unpopular opinion, because of my freedoms, but I hope, at the very least, smoking tobacco cigarettes as a practice dies out. At the most, I hope it's made illegal to do it in public, around people who don't want to risk developing cancer because of someone else's addictions. Tobacco, cigarettes, vaping. On the radio stations it literally advises against vaping and smoking cigarettes and says that nicotine is incredibly addictive, then plays the commercials for vaping cigarettes. Makes no sense for it to be legal besides profit from addicts. Commercially operated VPNs, their means of evading some manner of corporate or government control, whether it's breaking regional blackouts, privacy, ad tracking, the restrictions of an oppressive government, or hiding piracy from your ISP. Not effective at protecting anything really illegal, they just make it impossible to go after you without a warrant. These things exist in the open and clearly advertise what they do, and I predict some form of regulatory capture. Behavior comps for spoiled teens. There was a case recently where a teen, Bad Bobby, spoke about her time in Turnabout Ranch, which is a comp for spoiled teens. She was sent by Dr. Phil to the comp and she told that the Turnabout Ranch program was a disaster. One of the counselor kid there got killed by a car and the organization kept it a secret. Teens were forced to clean horse shit. As a punishment, many of the teens were not allowed to go to bathroom and starved. Dr. Phil should be arrested because he doesn't have any proper certificate for psychology. He just sits, roasts the person he feels is wrong and broadcasts people's issues on TV. A therapist or psychologist should be open-minded. They shouldn't talk about their clients' problems to other people, and they cannot force someone to go to any program without the patient's consent. Dr. Phil clearly doesn't follow any. Sorry, I went a little off topic and started ranting about Dr. Phil. My guess, marijuana prohibition in the U.S. That is, marijuana will be legalized at the federal level in 25 years for recreational use. From my understanding, at least 15 states already have total recreational use, and all but 2 have some form of legal medical use on their books. Any of the following: U.S. abortions, production of non-electric cars, coal as a fuel source, 0 hours contracts from employers, to avoid health insurance costs, etc., student athletes not getting paid in USA. Ad blockers, it's already influencing the next generation who were put through the ringer with streamers and product reviews combined with sponsored segments, which they almost always heavily imply is to cope with the lack of funds from standard advertising. It's so bad that on the consumer, commercial level, the illusion of choice, think monopolies, is being replaced by the prioritized urgency of timing and OCD levels of complete experiences. Ever since the moonshot and subsequent computer volume reduction caused by the microchip, we have been manipulated by data charts and statistical mischaracterizations caused by the influx of our ability to process data via digitized segments. and in essence in trade within the flow of the bottom line, attempting to exploit said statistics to saturate itself with volume. We must decentralize the systems of government and data processing and use statistics with smaller scopes, and use more advanced algorithms to string them together into accurate data. We will not do this on our own because our own self-preservation is being drowned out by the noise of the advertisement dollar, sucking the entirety of our civilization along with it. Illegal in UK by 2046. Not sure how the rest of the world stands. Any form of motorsport using internal combustion engines, and the sale or purchase of any existing road vehicles using internal combustion, ban on sale of new vehicles starts in 2030. I can see this getting more restrictive as it goes on. Smoking, been illegal in public enclosed spaces since 2007, and restrictions on sale, packaging started in 2017. I imagine by 2046 smoking tobacco anywhere will be prohibited. Clubs or groups exclusively for a single gender, the private clubs and associations, and the Equality Act 2010 has set the ball rolling. Although at present single-sex private clubs are still allowed, I think there will be a societal shift as time goes on, leading to an outright ban. Bitcoin, obviously China was the big one last month and everybody say how that tanked it. They weren't the first country and they're certainly not going to be the last. I know some people who have lost a shitload of money on Bitcoin the last couple months, and now they're actually buying more for when it recovers. It's kind of sad to see these people pissing their money away, because this isn't like a market correction type of deal. We have clear explanation for why it tanked. Countries and companies banning it, and the reason for it dropping is only going to get worse. I'd like to think many of the troubled teen boarding schools will be shut down, or hopefully they would become a lot more regulated. Parents will pay insane amounts of money to send their kids to these schools hoping it will help them, but they often face tons of abuse there. It's not rare to hear stories from survivors, who were literally children when they were sent there, talk about being put in solitary confinement, or being restrained or over-medicated, or hit or yelled at, or any other flavor of abuse, with celebrities like Paris Hilton speaking out about the troubled teen industry and sharing her experiences with being sent to one. Hopefully lawmakers will start giving the issue attention. In the countries that have strict policies about hate speech and discrimination, it'll probably be the discrimination of racists. The reason? It's not really something you have control about. It's similar to being gay. You may hide it, but you won't heal it. Just a different reason to why it can't be healed. For being gay, it's the fact that there are currently no effective ways to change sexual orientation. For being racist, it's the fact that nobody would want to help a racist. In the countries that have strict policies about hate speech and discrimination, it'll probably be the discrimination of racists, former racists. The reason? It's not really something you have control about. It's similar to being gay. You may hide it, but you won't heal it. Just a different reason to why it can't be healed. For being gay, it's the fact that there are currently no effective ways to change sexual orientation. For being racist, it's the fact that nobody would want to help a racist, and even getting discovered to have been a racist decades ago is enough to get you hated and discriminated everywhere. There are also more reasons to why it'd get outlawed, but it's complicated and I don't really feel like explaining it. Well, prohibition doesn't work and people have the right to drink and smoke and should have the right to use whatever drug they want. That being said, I do agree that the problem of alcoholism is downplayed and sometimes turned into a joke when it's not funny at all, but that's kind of a cultural thing that will hopefully change with time. The best answer is education and access to programs that can help people manage or quit their drinking. Controversial. Honestly, with the way things are heading now, I think religion will be illegal in the States in the future, especially Christianity. With all the Bibles and churches being burned, it makes me feel really sad. Because last time I checked it wasn't illegal to worship whatever God you wanna worship, so why is Christianity any different, if you feel me? Celebrating Christmas and Easter. Christmas traditions, celebrations, markets, banquets are rapidly disappearing from every major city in Europe, and they think they can replace Christmas symbols unnoticed. Where are the stable, the star are the angels? Instead you will see snowman decorations. What are we celebrating here? The birth of the great snowman. They don't have those. Actually, you have to be a dual to undergo surgery and 16 for hormone shots in most places. But trans children after therapy to determine their trans will be given hormone blockers when puberty hits to delay changes. They don't cause permanent changes, and if the kid grown out of dysphoria and once ifram, they will continue puberty as normal. Regular people need to understand the sheer scope and power that fundamentalist Christians have in the US and how some of its most fringe beliefs impact your day-to-day lives. It's surprising and horrifying and has effects in everything from the obvious women's rights, gay rights, to the slightly less obvious civil rights, workers' rights and wages and unions, to the obtuse and esoteric climate change, renewable energy and reducing plastic usage, cars and transportation, foreign policy. I could go into these, but the point is, fundamentalism isn't just the angry family in your suburb with pointless and conflicting household rules who beat their kids. They're the literal top echelon of American government. I'm sure this sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory, but no, it isn't. And this conversation needs to start happening if we ever want any hope of advancing into a progressive future and saving the planet. This is something about that particular part of US culture I find baffling. I don't understand how Christianity and these particular political views are so linked. I can understand bits of it, like their stance on gay rights, not that I agree with it, but I can see a consistency there. But a lot of it to my mind seems to have very little to do with Christian teaching. Where in the Bible does it suggest people should oppose climate change or strongly support the right to bear arms, for example? There's been major progress on that front. Over the last 10 years many laws in the US have changed. Now, there's only 4 states that allow 15-year-olds to get married, and the rest are all 16-18. MA is technically 12, but no judge in the state has approved a very young marriage this century. Should get to 18 everywhere eventually. Likewise, the only reason most states still have an age of consent of 16 is because most people don't know that. Eventually there will be something to draw big attention to it, like some old celebrity publicly dating someone young, not just hooking up behind the walls of their mansions or on a yacht, and they'll start bringing them up, probably going to outlaw people under 21 making porn too. But other countries won't go along with that. Texas just banned under 21 from working as strippers or topless. In fact, I see everything you can do at 18 becoming 21 eventually. That's sad then. The worst I saw was in the USA in a documentary. Young orphans teens, like 8 to 15-year-old, having to perform like a fashion show, beauty pageant in front of potential parents that came here to find a child. A few kids were having fun, but you could see that most were not comfortable and just wanted to be picked. Some didn't want to be picked because the kind of future parents coming there was. Well, they interviewed some future mothers. They were like, I want a pretty one, this one seems nice. Oh no. Look how she danced, and we're taking picture and video of them without their consent to send families like, look at this one, a little Alita, I would have fun to dress her, or this one, so funny and cute when she waved, that would be fun. Which one I pick? I wonder if you can have them a few weeks to try and give them back later. I felt horrible watching the documentary. Artificial intelligence, well, at least some forms of artificial intelligence. We're not far from a time when someone is going to put AI in charge of something it is not ready for example warfare, and a disaster is going to happen. I don't mean a Skynet type of problem, but more of a self-piloting drone taking out a school full of children. This is illegal in quite a few countries already. I live in the Netherlands, and if I call in sick, my boss isn't allowed to ask me what symptoms I have, force me to go see a doctor, or give me any medical advice since he's not a doctor. You could still work. You're not sick enough to stay home, etc. is considered medical advice in these cases. He basically has to accept it. However, he can ask me to call him every 2 days to keep him posted on my expected return. And if I'm still sick a week later, he can ask me if I've seen a doctor, and if I haven't, tell me I should. If I won't see my GP, he can actually force me to see a different doctor. There's businesses out there with doctors who'll specialize in monitoring how sick you are and if you're able to work. Businesses for employers to go to when an employee purposely fails to see a doctor. Then there's loads or follow-up rules and laws. It may sound a bit technical at first, but it's done to accommodate both employer and employee. And seeing how you're mandated by law to have health insurance if you live in the Netherlands, seeing the GP when you're ill will generally be free. Sometimes the meds or treatment aren't, but there's a built-in own risk, which is less than €400, which means getting the treatment, operation you need and you're insured for, can only cost you that amount annually. Every different treatment combined. Healthcare can be rather cheap here. One of the benefits of living in a populated country where every adult has to have health insurance. Cryptocurrencies. There's multiple reasons why the government controls the currency. As soon as crypto gets enough critical mass to be popular enough, the governments will start banning it. I do have crypto and I think it's a great idea, but do I believe this is gonna be the future? Nah. Governments want full control of their people, and crypto, as of today, is not helping them. Bulk buying for resale purposes, specifically thinking more along the lines of what's happening with Pokemon cards, cars, the Facebook groups dedicated to doing this, and bots. Individuals buying up a majority of limited items in order to inflate prices of things certain groups of people may really want or need. Hopefully child influencers, child vloggers or family vloggers, fuckers like Ruby from Made Passengers is a pathetic, authoritarian piece of shit who abuses her children for profit and broadcasts anything and everything about them, including really private stuff like your 11-year-old daughter getting her first bra or shaving for the first time, which totally isn't pedo bait. Her 3-4-year-old toddler was born while the channel was in full swing, and that baby has never known a life without a camera being shoved into their face for every waking moment. These children should have the same strict protections that child actors have before stuff like what happened to Judy Garland happens again. Following off of Ruby, the troubled teens industry or therapeutic boarding schools should either be extremely illegal or have a shit ton of laws surrounding them to stop the children going to them from being abused or treated by people who aren't even remotely qualified to be a therapist or aren't background checked to the most extreme degree to work with children. The troubled teens industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry profiting off of the abuse of children, and Ruby sent her son to one of these camps called Anasazi Wilderness, where children have been so brutally abused and neglected that they have died or suffered extreme health conditions or PTSD from. There are adults who are on the sex offenders registry and who have in the past been arrested for child abuse and a myriad of other crimes working at these camps. There is literally no federal laws or regulations in place for these kinds of places because of religion, and it's even legal to hire transporters to kidnap and traumatize your child to force them into these camps. It's disgusting. These are the same camps, by the way, that Dr. Phil sends mentally ill and traumatized, abused and neurodivergent children to. because he gets money and good boy points every time he does so. There was even a video by someone who went to one of these camps and later when she got out worked in a federal prison and realized how much her human rights have been violated because even prisoners got toilet paper, bathroom breaks, a bed, clean clothes and a proper, regulated diet. There is literally not a single other group of people in the Western world where if we treated them like how we treat children it wouldn't be extremely fucking illegal and frowned upon. Really think about that for a second. Even pedophiles and criminals get more basic human rights than actual children do because society as a whole doesn't consider children to be real people. Everyone likes to go on about how much they care about victims of abuse and how child abuse is the worst thing in the world until those abuse victims grow up into broken adults, or we suggest that children should be given the same respect and rights as adults and that they are in fact human beings. Then all of a sudden no one wants to hear anything about it anymore.